Hi everyone, Time for the Crunch Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Boris album, W. This is a brand new LP from Japanese rock outfit Boris. Their 27th at this point, I believe, but it is their first for Sacred Bones Records, who say this project is directly connected to the last major album the band released, that was 2020's No, which dropped in the thick of the pandemic and featured the band raging through all of these chaotic and cathartic fusions of thrash metal and sludge metal. Some fans may remember that LP fittingly ended with a ambient interlude, which I guess bridges over into the first track to this new LP, I Want to Go to the Side Where You Can Touch, which is a light, airy guitar drone packed with all these ethereal, reverbed out tones. Very cold, a little eerie, and progressively building up to these somewhat shrill whooshing sounds that bring the whole thing to a sudden close. Now, conceptually, this is so Boris. Link two records together and sequelize them, one of your most aggressive and hard-hitting records, and one of your most maybe ambient and easygoing. Because Boris isn't just one of the most significant bands out there in doom and stoner metal, they have some classics in the drone metal category as well. So a record with more ambient leanings isn't exactly outside of the band's wheelhouse. In so many ways, W is set up to be a W. But digging into it, it is actually a surprisingly meager offering. Sadly, this thing didn't really follow through with a cohesive vision and sound in the way that most Boris albums do. And the angles it does seem to be most consistently working don't really hold a candle to any of the band's high points so far. For one, many of the drone passages on this thing run pretty thin. There's very little weight or depth to them sonically. What layers are there inhabit similar frequency ranges and also are awash in similar effects, so they usually bleed together into a kind of dull and mildly grating wall of sound. One of the only tracks that stood out in this direction was maybe Old Projector, which is mostly due to the supremely cavernous lead guitar phrasings that are all bent up by some whammy bar work, and ultimately this thing ends up sounding like a dream sequence in some kind of noir surf film, which, even if this thing doesn't have like the greatest progression in the world, is a strangely evocative image. Now, there's another side to W as well, where the band is pulling together these very minimal, very faint, kind of dodgy and indirect layers of bass and guitar, drums, and vocals, which are very abstract and very impressionist. Rarely is anything in terms of a melodic idea being communicated all that clearly. If this is an attempt at like some ambient strain of art pop, I don't think it's being done all that well. Tracks like Islena and Drowning by Numbers are so soft and so gentle to the ear, but simultaneously come off really disheveled and sort of unpleasant, and not really in an eerie or scary or unsettling, a menacing way. I guess the unpleasantness comes more from a lack of instrumental cohesion and guiding vision for the song. I was actually pretty enamored with the sound of Drowning by Numbers when I first heard it, but the more I listened to it in the context of this record, the more I felt like the atmosphere it embodied just wasn't enough. The composition, the song, the instrumentation at the core of it was just too messy and just slapped together. You Will Know is really the best of the bunch when it comes to these ambient fusions, but even this track kind of loses steam fast as it doesn't really hold up for the 9 minutes that it lasts. Maybe the best and most gripping tracks on this LP are the ones that sound like they're the most out of place. Be it The Fallen, which is just loaded with all of these crushing, doomy riffs, very distorted, very loud. The volume level here in comparison with everything else is just night and day. And then there's also Beyond Good and Evil, which I think has a solid, very easygoing start and eventually builds up into this really huge, heavy, climactic, post-rock-esque finish. And honestly, in my opinion, is the most gratifying track on this LP from front to back. But yeah, sadly I found this Boris record to be a very weak one. There's nothing really all that concrete or memorable about it, stunning or impressive about the songwriting, the song play, the production, and I'm not really seeing what is guiding pretty much the mediocrity of this project, other than, I guess, potentially for it to be such a harsh contrast from their last full-length album. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 4 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Boris, W, forever.